and then at the end, once you exit, you can hand it to the young ladies at the door. They'll be standing at the door waiting for the surveys, okay? And you guys enjoy.
This mic works better, correct? Okay, we'll go with this. Please come on in, there's lots of seats down the front. Growing up, my mother used to say to be on time is to be before time, so I really, really do appreciate those who have clearly, intentionally selected to be in this session. I hope you find much value. So I think we're going to close the doors once everyone is in, so we can keep a lot of the sound from outside. Okay, well, good morning, everyone. What brand of coffee did they put out there? Gainwell. I said, good morning, everyone. Good morning. There you go. You got to make me feel welcome. It's so good to see you all. Some of you by now may have become familiar with my face, my voice, my title, because we've been doing a lot of work since January when I joined. But for those of you who have not met me in person and do not know who I am, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Maxine Elliott. I am currently one of 4 Deputy Executive Directors in the Medicaid division at Georgia's Department of Community Health. And specifically under my leadership is Service Delivery and Administration. I think when you came from the first session with our Executive Director this morning, he mapped out the 4 areas within the MAPS division. Well, this is Service Delivery and Administration. And so within Service Delivery and Administration, there are all the services you could possibly think of under Medicaid, but specific to today's topic of delivery, the 4 waiver programs, or home and community-based services, comes up under my leadership. So, I had a little plan this morning, but I thought it would be remiss of me if I were to just introduce myself, continue on, give you all this great information about the STP, or the State Transition Plan, home and community-based settings rule, without acknowledging some folks that are in this room and in other rooms. Because it is not me that does the hard work every day. It's our teams. And so before I start, I want to invite all of my fantastic team members, even if you're not in HCBS, even if you're not under Taisha Ward, any of the DCH MAP employees, team members, if you're in the room, please stand and let me acknowledge you. Please give them a hand. These are the folks that do the hard work every single day. These are the folks that respond to your calls every single day. And so I really want to acknowledge them and thank them for the great work that they do. So today I'm here to walk you through how to operationalize the HCBS settings rule and to become familiar with the interconnectivity between the settings rule and what we term as the Georgia STP, or the State Transition Plan. Our aim in this fair today, this Medicaid fair today, and in this session specifically, is to ensure that every provider here understands the requirements and knows how to achieve and maintain compliance. We'll also review a great resource that I'm not sure that many of you know. I don't know if you know where to find it, and I don't know if you know the true value and purpose of this resource. And we're going to refer to that as the Provider Guidance Manual. This manual offers practical advice for this process. this process of operationalizing the settings rule within your care settings, and how to establish a compliant environment, and once you've established it, how to maintain it. So, our mission at the Georgia Department of Community Health is to shape the future of a healthy Georgia. A key part of this mission is ensuring that the services we deliver through Medicaid align with the HCBS settings rule and the Georgia STP. Today, again, I'll be outlining how these regulations improve access, service quality, and what providers do, what they can do to ensure compliance. Let me just pause a minute, because I did acknowledge my team. How many of you in the room are providers? Okay, a good amount of you. I really hope that you leave today, this session, really feeling like you've learned something. And I recognize that, you know, in government, there's this acronym soup, right? There's all these terms and acronyms bouncing around the place. So let's just talk about the HCBS settings rule. You guys have heard the term the Georgia State Transition Plan, or the STP. I just spoke to you about the HCBS Provider Guidance Manual. These terms are used frequently, but what do they mean? They're central to the compliance goals, but they can be confusing. If I'm doing one, does that mean I have to do the other? Is there a difference? Are they all the same? Where do they originate? And how do they relate to the collective mission of providing high quality, integrated care, and of equal importance, knowing where they originate from, who the authority is, and how they interconnect? So, let me just go through them real quick. So the HCBS settings rule, do you all know what that is? Yes? Well, let's just go through it real quick. It originated with who? DCH? CMS. All right, this is a federal rule, and the federal entity being CMS, as you all know, they are the agency that oversee Medicaid. The purpose is that it establishes criteria that define what qualifies a home and community-based setting to ensure these environments promote integration, autonomy, and participation for our members in community life. How does it relate to you, the providers? Well, providers must adapt their settings and services to meet these criteria, ensuring the individuals that you serve and you care for every day have access to community engagement and choice in their care. And then we had the Georgia, and I'm just going to say the STP, right? That was developed by the Georgia Department of Community Health in response to the federal HCBS settings rule, and it was approved by CMS. So it is a standing state-level guideline that everyone must adhere to. It provides a state-specific roadmap for achieving full compliance with the HCBS settings rule by, who knows when? Say it louder. Awesome. By July 2025. So we've got a lot of work. It details timelines. There are milestones in there for you to see. There's how we're going to remediate. So nothing that we're doing now, or we will continue to do, from this date forward to July 2025 should be alarming to you. If you're familiar with what the STP says, it tells you what to expect. So please make sure that you are familiar with it. And then let's just talk about the Provider Guidance Manual. This was developed by DCH to serve as a resource specifically for Georgia providers who have to implement the HCBS settings rule into their various care settings. So even if you're a provider and you're over here in one care setting and you've got 3 or 4 or 5 locations, it must be assessed and it must be implemented and compliant in each of the settings. Remember, when we're talking about compliance, we're not talking about the person. We're talking about the care setting. And this tool we took the time out to develop specifically for you. It serves as a hands-on tool for you that it offers insights on how to meet compliance requirements in your day-to-day operations, and it will prepare you adequately for DCH assessments. So, now that we have got the terms under our belt, let's talk a little bit about the actual HCBS settings rule. Are you all still with me? Awesome. So the HCBS settings rule was established by CMS to ensure that individuals receiving services can live in integrated, community-based settings. It promotes autonomy, it prevents isolation, it ensures people who are eligible to receive these HCBS services have the same opportunities and access as anyone else in the community. And by anyone else, I mean individuals that are not receiving HCBS services. So as a state Medicaid agency, DCH is responsible for ensuring that all Medicaid-funded services within Georgia meet these federal requirements. Our role involves developing and enforcing policies, managing the STP and its implementation, working closely with all of you that are well-valued providers in the community to ensure that these rules are put into practice, and all of you within each of your specific care settings you're equipped with knowledge, understanding, and real application to meet compliance requirements. Providers, in return, this is what we expect from you. We expect you to operationalize these rules within your respective care settings. By integrating person-centered care, promoting this community inclusion that I've been talking about, and protecting the rights and dignity of these vulnerable individuals. The HCBS settings rule has 3 core objectives. First, ensuring that individuals have full access to the benefits of community living. Second, that services are provided in the most integrated settings. And third, that individuals are never isolated, but instead actively they're given the chance and the ability to choose to participate in community life. By achieving these objectives, we all work together to enhance the quality of life for people receiving these services. So let's look at the different care settings. So many of you may have been impacted by our recent provider assessments. And it's been a learning experience for me. So many of you may say, well, this is my care setting. How do I know that I fall up under this whole HCBS settings rule and compliance? So let's look at the services real quick, just to make sure we're all on the same page. So the HCBS settings rule applies to a broad range of care settings. And let's just classify them in residential and non-residential. Residential settings include places like provider-owned or controlled homes, assisted living facilities, personal care homes. In these environments, again, and I'm going to say it, I want to sound like a parrot this morning, right? Because they say repetition deepens the impression. So, in these environments, individuals should have autonomy and privacy while still receiving the necessary support and guidance that they need. And then there's the non-residential care settings. Adult day health, supported employment, day habilitation. In these settings, individuals should have the same opportunities to engage with their communities and participate in meaningful activities as they would if they were in the residential setting. So we spoke about 3 objectives. Let's talk about 3 components now. And again, we're talking about the HCBS settings rule. 1, person-centered planning. 2, again, community integration. 3, individual rights and privacy. Each of these components is essential to ensuring that individuals receiving these community-based services are treated with dignity and have the same opportunities as others in the community. Let's move along quickly now. The Georgia State Transition Plan. So Georgia's STP is our roadmap to achieving compliance with the HCBS settings rule. It was developed by DCH, submitted to CMS, and approved by CMS for Georgia's state Medicaid agency to ensure full implementation across the entire state of Georgia in every single care setting / location where care services under the HCPS settings rule are being provided. That was a real run-on sentence, but do you get it? Are you getting it? Okay. And again, we have only until July 2025. And I know you guys are all getting ready to check out for Christmas and Thanksgiving and Halloween. Well, oh yeah, it's Halloween today, isn't it? You have to excuse me, I didn't grow up doing the whole Halloween thing the way you guys do it here. I'm learning, but don't let the holidays put you to sleep, because as you come back from Christmas into the New Year's, before you look around, July's going to be here. So please be very vigilant in the things that we're asking you to do. Again, this STP, even though it was developed by DCH, it is a collaborative effort between DCH, our sister agency, DBHDD, who, as you know, is the operating agency that oversees the NOW and COMP waivers. We're working very, very closely with them, as we always do. And then the providers like yourself and even other key stakeholders. We need everyone on board, checked in, and working together to achieve full compliance by July 2025. So ongoing assessments and remediation plans are crucial, and we are about to engage heavily into that phase of our compliance checks and our implementation of the STP. So what are provider responsibilities in this big level of effort for the entire state of Georgia? Providers play a very crucial role. I mean, the work you guys do every day, I don't think an hour is sufficient enough for me to not just say thank you, but to acknowledge I know you face challenges, there's always changes, there's new rules, new policies, and then there's Hurricane Helene, right? So I know that it's a very bumpy environment that you guys are trying to keep a level of consistency and balance and security, not just for your operations, which includes your staff, making sure your staff, people leave, they go, they come, but also, and central to everything that you do, the members. We acknowledge that it is a huge lift. Every day it takes a lot of commitment, but we need you to understand the responsibilities. Once you've checked in and said, look, this is the role I want to play, there are responsibilities that come with that territory. So, you are responsible. You are responsible for ensuring that services are centered around the individual's preferences, promoting community integration and safeguarding their rights and their privacy. And each of these elements that you see up here, it's very critical to meeting both federal and state requirements. And I'm going to say this. Everything that I've just said seems like, oh, we've got to do that again, and we've got to do that again. DCH is here through this process of implementation of the settings rule in Georgia, not to be someone banging you over your head, trying to find out where you're falling or coming up deficient, but we are here to work with you, to provide you with the knowledge and the information that you need and the practical application of the rules and the different components of the rules within your care setting. So please, 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 if you're not sure, if you need help, if you have questions, I'm asking you not to stay out there and struggle and ignore our communications to do that next thing in this whole implementation process, but to reach out to us and let's work through it together. If I had time, I would maybe take a poll, and I would want to ask some of our providers to give me their definition of person-centered planning. Is there anyone in the room that would be brave enough to tell me what person-centered planning really means? Okay.
Thank you. We may not be the official definition, but we are a DBHD provider as well, so we've worked in the person-centered planning arena for some time now. And I would pretty much describe it as providing choice in everything that you do and allowing the person to truly live out based on their hopes, dreams, and aspirations, live out their days based on their hopes, dreams, and aspirations, and being the liaison to support those hopes, dreams, and aspirations.
Awesome. Give her a hand. Thank you so much. You know what, I'm going to tell you the fancy version, but at the end of the day, understanding it with that level of passion is what it's all about, right? Person-centered planning is a process that prioritizes the individual's preferences, needs, and values. It ensures that services are tailored to the specific needs, assessed needs, and desires of the individual. So what are some key steps for implementing person-centered planning? Well, these steps include 1, assessing the individual's needs and preferences. 2, developing a personalized care plan, some people call it ISP, care plan, all the same thing. Involving the individual and their family in decision making, and regularly reviewing and updating that plan. There's no person that lives a static life, they're ever changing. So you have to make sure that you're updating it. This approach, again, will promote the autonomy and ensure that care is aligned with the individual's goals and their lifestyle of choice. There's something else that is very, very key. It's not a piece of paper. It's not necessarily only a policy. It's part of the dynamic within your operations that you must adhere to, and it must be evident in the plan. It must be evident if we stop by for a site visit to talk to your members or talk to your staff. When they respond to our questions, this must be evident. So I'm giving you some cheat sheets here for your examination or compliance, right? So please, a coordinated effort is an assessed component of compliance under this settings rule. What does that mean? It means that each one, case manager, care coordinator, provider, they're separate, and I know in some settings where staff shortage, etc., you're maybe a smaller operation, one person may play dual roles, right? But the roles of each of these case manager, care coordinator, and provider, they're separate, and they must be evident in operations and in your documentation. So again, each one has a distinct role, and when reviews identify a lack of coordination between all of these 3 players, this will equate to non-compliance. So let's take a closer look. Providers, what are they responsible for? Delivering services and ensuring that the environment meets HCBS standards. Then there are case managers. They develop and maintain the individual service plan or the care plan, ensuring there is an initial assessment in place and that the resultant care plan reflects the individual's assessed needs, articulated choices, goals, and preferences. We're going to take a little deeper dive into that. And then you have the care coordinators that facilitate communication, coordination, collaboration among all parties involved in the individual's care, ensuring consistency and quality of services. In a compliant, coordinated effort, a provider, a case manager, and a care coordinator, they must work together seamlessly to ensure the individual's goals are explored and their needs and preferences are met, and that the individual's goals are documented. Not just documented, but they align to the ultimate assessed needs of the individual. All right? So how do I maintain a compliant care plan? Again, it must be person-centered. When you sleep and wake out your sleep, because you're like, oh my gosh, am I compliant? Think person-centered. Is it person-centered? No, it needs to be person-centered. That is so core. I don't know if anyone's in the room that was touched by the recent CMS site visits earlier on in the year. It was just when I joined DCH again. I don't know if any providers are in the room, but I can tell you that when we received their report back, it's not that there wasn't documentation, it's not that there wasn't a care plan, it wasn't that there wasn't good training and policies and things like that. It was that they didn't see the person-centeredness. And you will know that as professionals, we can write documents, right? We can write them up real quick. But they have their way of looking into it to see, is the member aware of this? You know, are the goals or the activities or the services that the program has put in place to support the member, are they reflecting, are they aligned to those expressed needs and preferences? The care plan should also include detailed information on the services provided, how they support achievement of the individual's expressed goals, and where there are modifications or accommodations, I mean, there may be at times, and that's okay, but you just have to make sure that those modifications are based on an assessment, right? And then it can be modified, because their needs are changing. So, I'm going to go through this real quick, because we were at the Gossip conference a few weeks back, and someone in the audience actually said to us, you know, can you just tell us what a care plan looks like, right? And so I thought, you know, even though it's long and it's a lot of detail, these slides will be available for you, so don't try to note-take. Assessment, number one. Let's look at it. Maria. She prefers activities that allow her to socialise and engage in the community. She enjoys cooking, and she wants to develop her cooking skills further. Maria requires assistance with daily living skills, and she's also expressed, I'd like to have part-time employment. Part-time employment, maybe work with my local church, go to the local Publix, something like that. These are the things that during that initial assessment have been either assessed or expressed by the member. Now you develop your goals and the outcomes you expect to achieve through the services that you put in. All of them are interconnected. So she wants to develop social skills, if you see, that was right at number one. What will she do? We're going to have Maria participate in community events and social activities at least 3 times a week. What do we expect? Enhanced social interactions and community integration. So there should be some progress and some improvement in how she interacts successfully within the community. And again, let her attend a cooking class. This is going to give her increased independence for meal prep. So I'm not going to go through all the details, but these are just some of the components. And then, again, the services. You see here? So your direct service providers and your care coordinators, this is when you go out into the community and you build relationships, you build a network of providers or partners, should I say, to help to put these services in place. So the direct service provider, you're going to have a schedule based on Maria's saying she'd like to do the cooking classes or she'd like to go into the community, and they're going to accompany her. They're going to accompany her into the community. They're going to assist her with attending these weekly cooking classes. And because she wants to be job ready or employable, right, we're going to give her a little job coaching, right, to get her ready to be able to go out into the community and work successfully. And again, regular reviews and updates. But what does that mean as far as the compliant care plan is concerned? It means that you've got to have documented somewhere a schedule. Like, how often are you reviewing it? What's the baseline amount of reviews? And then, when there are life-changing incidents or changes in the expressed needs of the member, you've got to go back to the table again, and you've got to review it. You've got to update that care plan, okay? She said she doesn't want to do cooking anymore. She keeps spilling the boiling water and she doesn't like it. She wants to do something else. You need to go back, assess her needs, and update that care plan. And then documentation. Please, please, please. Dates, signed consent forms, monthly reports, evidence of the services being delivered. All of that needs to be included in that care plan. So we always tell you about what you must do, right? And we're trying to help you to understand what does this look like when we operationalize it. So let's talk about what non-compliance could look like and what could be an easy fix. right? An outdated care plan, non-compliant. Inadequate documentation, non-compliant. How do I fix it? Update the care plan, change the schedule, educate your staff, right? Let's talk about community integration. This means that individuals should have the same opportunities to participate in community life just like you and I. Just like you and I. That's a big responsibility, but you have to find a way to adhere to being compliant with this part of the rule. And this includes access to employment, education, recreational activities, social activities, workplaces, community centres, social clubs, yes. They need to be able to have access to all of those should they choose. Individual rights and privacy. This is fundamental to the settings rule. Individuals have the right to privacy and in their living spaces, in their personal spaces, and they have the right to control their own schedules and their activities. So now by now you provide, say, okay, all right, so I'm going to go this way then, and this one wants me to go over here, and that one. We've got to find a way to coordinate. That is why the cross-coordination between your different members of staff is so important. Providers must ensure that these rights are respected no matter what, and that privacy is maintained in all aspects of service delivery. So I'm going to skip because I did come across some, well, let's go through a couple of them. I wish I had a couple of mics in there because I'd have some of you providers stand up, wake up, and participate. So, I don't know. Let's just go through it. I won't pick on you this time, but next time around I'm going to get you, okay? All right. Couple of questions, few questions that come up typically as far as what does this look like in implementing in my care setting. So, can we restrict access to food for individuals with IDD to manage their dietary needs? And let's say a person is obese, part of their dietary plan is that they've got to lose 50 pounds. We can, for that reason, we should be able to restrict access to food, right? No, exactly. Restricting access to food is non-compliant with the settings rule. Individuals have the right to access food at any time. And if there are specific dietary needs, this is where your innovation and your creativity and your leadership comes into play. Address these dietary needs through member education and support, not and never by restricting access. For example, you can work with the individual to create a meal plan that meets dietary needs and gives them healthy options, and ensure that they understand the importance of following it and what the benefits are. But they should always have the freedom to access food. In a previous conference when I was talking about this, I said, you know, you could come up with healthy snacks. Just because we're talking about they shouldn't be restricted access to food doesn't mean to say that they can go in the pantry and eat everything on a Monday, right? But you can talk with them. What are some of your enjoyable snacks? They like apples, bananas, you know, a fruit bar, blah, blah, blah. You could actually put a little section in their private space with some of those snacks, and they'll always, if they feel peckish, they'll always have access to some food. There's so many different things that you can do to show that you are doing due diligence, you are doing the best effort in adhering to this level of compliance. Quickly, individuals, are we allowed to lock the doors to individuals' rooms for safety reasons? No, we're not. Individuals have the right to privacy, all right? So that means that they should have the sole ability to lock their door. And yes, there are safety concerns, and there should be a designated, appropriate member of staff who should have the key in emergency situations so that the safety is never compromised. Okay. What about when they want to choose their roommate? Can they choose their roommate? Any ideas? How about a notice board in the front lobby with some photographs, just like we used to do in college, right? Where we want to choose a good roommate. A little bit about the person, their likes, their dislikes. These guys are looking for roommate too. So many simple things you can do to adhere and to be compliant. All right, it's dangerous out there. I don't go out after dark alone. Can we implement a curfew for individuals in our residential settings? No. We have to support them in their choice to participate in an activity in the community, even if it's after certain hours. But at the same time, you educate them on making good choices that will never compromise their safety. I'm just going to go through this very quickly, but I want to go down to, I want to just adhere to time. This last one here, this is always a hot topic. How should we handle situations when individuals in our care want to date and have their date visit their bedroom? Any ideas? Set up the camera, right? No? But what about their safety? What if something happens? They have the right, right? Just like you and I. You want to date and have someone over, there's no one telling you you can't do that. But in their care plan, there should be guidelines. The staff should be educated on how to accommodate this. When the visitor comes, there should be clear rules and policy for what you do on site, etc., etc. So there's ways that we can still accommodate them. We want them to have the best life, irrespective of their medical status, etc. We all know what a provider control setting is, but there are some specific rules to those care settings. One of the requirements that you must have in place is that individuals must have a legally enforceable agreement, similar to a lease. The purpose of this is because we need to be able to protect them, just like you and I, from, this eviction. All right? We want to protect their rights and keep them secure in their homes. And then secondly, individuals must have the privacy and security in their homes. This includes their ability to lock their doors with only appropriate staff having keys. This respect for privacy is crucial in creating a home-like environment. And third, they've got to be able to decorate. I actually visited a site, and the member wasn't able to decorate. It was just a plain wall, right? It's got to be home-like. This is their home, okay? And again, in the non-residential settings, this is where you now have to provide those opportunities for community access and inclusion. All right? Always making sure that you're meeting their interests and the needs, the expressed needs of the member. So when it comes to employment and community life, they should also have the opportunities for competitive, integrated employment and to engage in meaningful community activities. Do you all do that now? Yes? Uh-oh. Yes. Yeah? Okay. All right. I'm just going to skip to the next slide because this is making me nervous. All right. So, I was going to say something, but I have to be politically correct up here. Who controls your checkbook? Your husbands? Your wives? No? You control it, right? You control your finances. And you have the choice to allow somebody else access, should you choose. Should that be the way you live your life? They have the same right. They can manage their personal finances, educate them, teach them how to write, well, nobody writes a check anymore, but you get what I'm saying, right? They must have access to their personal finances and have control over it. Dignity, respect, and freedom from coercion. Providers must treat individuals with respect. You must honor their choice and avoid the use of coercion or restraint. And this means listening, respecting, responding to. And then the other aspect from a provider perspective is that you must make sure that your staff and yourselves are undergoing some core training activities for each year of service. And that is what is outlined on this slide. Again, the person-centered planning, the community integration, individual rights and privacy, how to recognize and report abuse and neglect. Just a few components. And I will say this, we're getting ready to put something out there for you guys that's going to make life so much easier when it comes to not just checking off the mandatory training requirements, but having access to it on an as-needed basis without you having to come to a meeting like this or check onto a team. We're putting things in place. We want to make sure that we're supporting you to achieve compliance. And then again, we have the sole responsibility of monitoring and ensuring that compliance is in the care setting. I'm going to say this because it is important for everyone to understand. The implementation must end and meet 100% compliance in July 2025. If providers are not doing what we're asking them to do, this will include up to, I'm not saying it's going to be it. There will be ample opportunity to remediate and have us validate the compliance and the shift, the corrective action. But if there's anyone that is not adhering to the level of compliance, you will be subject up to and including disenrollment. And that would be a very sad day. So we want to avoid that from happening. We're going to work with you. There will be some random on-site checks, but technically speaking, we're going to talk with you, arrange to come, because we want to work with you and give you, not hand-holding, but give you the opportunity to correct areas that are assessed as being deficient. Okay, I'm going to move along because we all know what compliance looks like and what it doesn't look like. I promise to just quickly touch on the provider guidance manual. Again, this is a resource for you. When I joined DCH early in the year, in January, I started to receive to-do lists of reading. The state health plan is what, maybe how many thousands of pages? In crazy looking font, policies, and all this fun stuff. Do you know what I did? I found this on DCH's website and I read it, and it made sense. It's an easy read and it's been developed for you. It tells you what operationalizing the HCBS settings rule looks like. It gives you examples. It tells you how to correct. All of that for you. Please go to DCH website and use it. The manual highlights 4 key areas. Again, these are the 4 components for the HCBS settings rule that you must know. But this now is telling you in a language that is going to be relevant to how you can implement it in your respective care settings. The guidance manual also outlines clear expectations for every provider. You must understand and implement all of the requirements of the HCBS settings rule. You must conduct self-assessments. You know, when you go through these exercises with us, do it with your staff. All right? Implement a self-assessment, a mock audit, things like that, because that allows you to catch areas from one day to the next. We're all human beings. We all make mistakes. There might be a shortfall, and you can self-correct. So when it comes round to the time of assessment or an audit or a site visit, you're good to go. All right? So conduct self-assessments. They have value, and document your compliance efforts. This documentation will be crucial during our reviews, and it will ensure that your service delivery aligns with the federal and state regulations. And there's always going to be resources out there because we are here to support you in doing this critical, vital, challenging work, taking care of our most vulnerable members within community settings. We have the provider guidance manual. If you've not downloaded it, download it. Don't save the trees, print it off, and have it as a resource for your staff on site. All right? So no one has an excuse. This is one time where, you know, we're not going to be eco-friendly. Have it accessible so your staff can check into it. It's got the way that you must implement it and what it must look like in your care settings. All right? And then training and technical support. If you need training, if you don't understand something, you reach out to us. It is our responsibility as the Medicaid Oversight Agency to ensure that we are providing you with the technical assistance that you need. So you call us on that. We will continue to provide outreach and engagement. And you know what? I shouldn't even need slides by now, because since January, I've spoken about the HCBS settings rule. I've lost count. And you know why? Because I could have spoken on different topics within Medicaid, but I have taken the opportunity, while I have you as the audience, to again give you that opportunity to understand all of the components, to understand what compliance looks like, to understand what the consequences of non-compliance could potentially be, to understand what we are here to give you to help you to be compliant. All of that, every time we're talking about this, every single opportunity we get called to speak at, it's this. And it will continue to be this until July 2025. And that's because we understand that while you're dealing with the day-to-day needs of these members that you serve and doing the great work that you do, you still have to be checking these boxes and making sure that you're bringing your care setting. Remember, care setting, location, physical environment. What does that look like? That is what we're assessing as far as implementation and compliance with the HCBS settings rule. And before I close off, I want to thank you all. You've been so attentive, all right? I hope that this helps to drive home a new and a refreshed understanding of the settings rule, the Georgia State Transition Plan, the resources that are available to you. Many of you may have completed the initial provider assessment. It's opened back up again. See, we're leaders that lead with grace and mercy. So for those of you who refused to do it, ignored the call to do it, didn't do it, the cat spilled the coffee on the keyboard, I don't know what the reason is, but there are a significant number, right, team, of individuals that have not done it. So if you did not do it, we've closed our eyes, we've opened it back up. Please complete the assessment. The assessment is going to tell me and my team what you need to get compliant. And once we have that, it's not going to be knocking on your door and with the police. It's not that. It's about, look, these are the specific gaps. Everything else is great, but you just need to work on this. And this is what you can do to remediate that gap in compliance. So please respond. Please continue to work with us. And I want to really thank you over and over again for staying the course with the Medicaid agency in Georgia and doing the great work that you do for our members. And at this point, I think we can close. I don't know if we have time for questions. Does anyone have any questions?
No? Okay, great. That means you did an excellent job. Once you leave, oh, you do have a question? We have one question.
As far as the case managers, do they have to be located within the provider's office, or could they be outsourced case management?
Okay, let me call on my dear colleague and team member, Ms. Taisha Ward. You guys know Taisha, right? Taisha is our Director of Programs and Community Supports. She runs the HCBS waiver world. So she will have a perfect answer for you.
Kind of give me a little bit of more detail about the question you asked.
So, in the outline, it said that the member would be offered a case management, or that's part of the team that supports the patient center model.
Yes, that's part of the team. So that case management or care coordinator will already be in talks with the service provider to develop that service care plan and provide details as to what the needs of the member is.
Do they have to work within the provider's office?
No. That conversation can be at the member's home, through telephone, through email. Case conferencing is another way of gathering everyone together to develop that care plan.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
Any other questions? Awesome. Okay.
One question? Oh, feel free.
I heard everything you said, and I really appreciate what you gave us this morning. But I just want to know, how does this affect the ICWP case managers? What are our roles in this particular transition plan?
So let me, again, so we're all about teamwork here. Bonnie, please join me. Many of you may know Bonnie Snelly. She's been running the ICWP unit, and she is our new waiver manager from November the 3rd. So she can ask you questions.
Oh, you're going to have to be, you're always involved in the care plan development. So, as a case manager, you need to continue that. So you've already talked to everybody about their goals, and we are talking about people in settings. So we are talking about people receiving ALS services in a personal care home and ADH services. So, of course, you want people living in their own homes to have some community involvement too, look at their goals and try to help them with that. But the setting rule, if they're actually living somewhere and receiving Medicaid, then those providers need to be compliant with the settings rule. So, talk to them, conference with them, make sure that the care plan and the activities are the client's wishes. Their goals are incorporated into that. So case management has a huge part of this because you're our eyes and ears, what's actually happening with the members. So that's unless there's another case management part of that, Taisha, that I'm missing. She's our case management expert. But that's my input for that.
Okay, we have another question. Could you share the mic?
It's just a clarifying question. So when we looked at the residential versus the non-residential care settings, there wasn't a segment for CLS, PSS, so it's provided in the home, but it's not necessarily, we wouldn't consider it residential. So I'm assuming it's non-residential, but it's like that facility without walls, so it's still in the person's home. So just, when I look at the manual, it will probably be very obvious, but if you guys can just let us know where that falls.
I know that was recently updated, the now in comp settings.
But I think Brittany. But Brittany, what I believe you're referencing is how personal support private home care providers, we want to continue that, having that person-centered planning for those. However, this is really kind of a straight line to just adult day care, assisted living facilities, host homes. Those that are either living there in those residential settings or being provided a service at a brick and mortar place. So the HBC example does truly apply to not private home care providers. Should do it anyway. Right. I strongly encourage that person-centered planning, having those case conferences, talking about what the members' needs are, but this is related to just settings listed within the rule. You're very welcome.
Any more questions? Okay, we have a gentleman at the back. Hopefully he's got a loud bass voice.
This is all new to me and may be irrelevant. How does this apply, if it does, to people who are homeless or living in a shelter?
Those are homeless and living in a shelter are not affected by this setting rule.
So
They're only members within the, they're only members within the Medicaid waiver programs. But if they are, sometimes we do assess those that are homeless that may be assessed to receive alternative living services, and then those persons would be subject to the rule, if I'm making sense.
But generally speaking, we're talking about eligible Medicaid members that are members within one of the 4 waiver programs, generally speaking. Sorry?
I was saying that some of them can live in a shelter, like they transition, even though they're on EWP, like I've had clients, members who had to go to women
but shelters aren't listed within the rule.
Correct, I'm just saying.
Oh,
I
okay.
said no shelter.
Oh, okay.
They are.
Thank you for that. Anyone else before we wrap up? Well, I take it that it was a job well done. I hope that you feel that you've spent a valuable 1 hour with myself and my team members. And remember, throughout the course of the day, we've got a meal prepared for you. I want you to be sure to partake of everything that we've prepared for you guys. We have members of our waiver team. You just heard from Taisha Ward, who's our director, Bonnie Snelly, who's our new manager of all waivers. We have Chandria here. Chandria, please stand up. Thank you, ma'am. Right, so she's our now and comp lead. So there are people right here, even though you're not in a session, if throughout the day you have questions or concerns and you see us in the hallway, stop us, have a chat with us, and hopefully we can answer your questions. Thank you so much for your attention.
Everyone, please go